Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce Podcast. I'm Tanner Larsson, your host of this podcast, also the CEO and founder of Build, Grow, Scale, the leading optimization e-commerce company on the planet, universe, galaxy, something along those lines, something small but big, right? Anyway, guys, we got a really cool podcast for you today. I'm joined by Bret Thomson, who is one of the most amazing copywriters in the game. But what's even more special about Bret is that he's taken his traditional direct response copywriting skills and applied them 100% to e-commerce and has really kind of pioneered some of the ecom copy stuff that's going on. So today we're going to be talking about how to do persuasive copy in e-commerce and kind of all the pieces that go along with that, why e-commerce copy is different, how you need to write it, what do you need to know about it, and just kind of build the whole package for you guys. So Bret, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, mate. Looking forward to spending some time with you. I just want to apologize to the audience for your accent, mate. I know, but I love talking about copy, and I know you've got some really awesome copywriting skills yourself. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So my copy is I can do copy and I can turn out some really, really good copy. I mean, you've even complimented some of my copy, but the amount of time it takes me to turn out a piece of good copy, you blink and you turn out the same level of copy. And then when you actually, put your time in it, it gets even better. And it's really cool. And you've got a very systematic process for it, which is good considering you're Australian. You gotta be able to follow those kind of things, right? But it's a gift you've got, and I'm excited to kind of dig into that with you. So to start this off, why don't we go with a little bit of the more backstory stuff and ask the question of, how did you get to be one of the top ecom copywriters that there is? Where did this come from?
Well, yeah, it's, my story more than anything gives people a lot of hope, right? Because I went all through school. I didn't read, didn't write. I hated it. I was in the lowest English level class. I think the only things I read were Mad magazines and a few choose your own adventures, right?
Yep.
But in my early 20s, I went through that party scene and met a guy who owned the nightclub, and he was just different than the rest, and he was reading books, and I thought, that's a weird thing to do when you're not in school. I went into his room and just looked at all these books, and there was one book that stood out. It said Awaken the Giant Within. So I thought I'd read that, and that transformed me, because I thought, wow, I didn't know you could actually create your own destiny. I was in my early 20s. I didn't have a big ambitious entrepreneurial career before then, but that led me on a path of self-development, self-education, and fast forwarded, I started my own business. I wanted to run personal development workshops for kids. Everyone thought it was a fantastic idea. So I quit my job after 15 years, dove straight in and learned very quickly. It's okay to have a good idea over here, but if you don't know marketing, you can lose a lot of money. And that's what happened to me. So then I ended up in one of those marketing wealth creation seminars, and this guy at the top, at the front of the stage, he was known as the millionaire maker of Australia, and he said, what I'm going to show you now has earned me more money than anything I've ever done in my whole entire life. And I remember thinking, right, whatever comes out of this guy's mouth, I'm just going to do it. And he said, copywriting. I went, no. I said, I don't even read or write, anyway, so I dove in and started doing it, and I got very good very fast, and I believe the reason why is because a lot of people have to unlearn some of the English stuff that we get drummed into us at school. But because I slept through school, this was my first education on how to write, and one of the big principles, and I'll weave a lot of this in through this podcast, is to write as you speak. And I had permission just to write very conversationally, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. So I got very good at just really absorbing all of that, and then from that I started working with, and also prior to that, I also spent about 7 or 8 years in network marketing, which is the closest thing to door-to-door selling as you get. So that's hardcore salesmanship principles. So when I learned, mix that in with some copywriting principles, which was just a new revelation for me, I got very good very fast, and got a lot of people's success. It didn't take me long till I was writing copy for that millionaire maker, became his top copywriter, and then being asked to speak on stages, and that started it. It was about 14 years ago, mate. So it's been a crazy journey.
That's really cool.
And I think in that time, in the last 3 years or more, I had my own copywriting agency, which was doing really well, and then through that, I had some e-commerce clients, and that's when I met you and Matt, and and I know that project wasn't going to last forever, but I just had I'd spoken on stages, Ecom stages in Singapore, Japan, and in the US. But when I met you guys, I was undoubtedly, I knew you guys were the real deal, the best in the business, and I said, and I decided I just want to keep working with you guys. So we had some conversations, and I've never looked back. I literally burnt the bridges, and turned that and stopped doing all B2B copy and just went 100% into e-commerce.
Yeah, and it has. It's crazy hearing you say it, because I had to think. I'm like, has it really been 3 years? It's approaching, getting beyond 3 years now. So yeah, it's been a long time. But yeah, so from my side of it, it was really cool. Like, Bret came with this wealth of direct response knowledge, which was really cool, because in BGS, like, I'm the direct response guy. I came from that world. I built all my businesses using direct response marketing, and Matt was not a direct response guy. None of our other team members were really direct response guys. So when Bret came in, it was like, oh my God, someone who speaks my language and actually understands what I'm talking about from a persuasion, from a marketing, from a, attention, interest, desire standpoint. And so it was really cool. And he also came from some of the information marketing world. So he was able to kind of really hit the ground running with us. And, the big project that Bret's been involved with the longest has been our Ecom Insider program, and which is basically we help established e-commerce stores go from good to great and learn how to really grow and scale their business through a guided business accelerator program. And Bret heads up the entire copy and persuasive aspect of that course, and our members love him. He's super into it, but he had this much ecom experience, which was a significant amount still, but now he's working on, hundreds and hundreds of stores a year and getting to see all of the different products and different angles, and really has developed a massive skill set. But I want to go back a minute. We love having you as part of EI and as part of BGS, but to your story, you said, your big thing that helped you get good so fast was that you slept through school and didn't have to unlearn anything. What else did you do that really helped you get good fast?
Well, number one, I just became so hungry to learn, and I just consumed all the best. And just, you say you have to do your 10,000 hours. And so I burned through that really quickly. And also, and then through that, I started emulating what some of the greatest copywriters who have ever lived have done. And I used to handwrite sales letters, handwrite long form sales letters from Gary Halbert and other things. Like, I remember when I was reading Gary Halbert, and most ecom people, they don't know who Gary Halbert is, and or even if you mentioned Dan Kennedy, they go, who? And I'm like, oh man, and so I used to be fascinated with just the conversational connectors that Gary would sprinkle through his copy, and just feel like you're just having a real life conversation. So early on, I just started copying and pasting and started creating documents with all different, the best subject lines, the best conversational little snippets here and there, just really for myself. And so there's nothing glamorous about why I got so good, mate. It's not as if again, like the only other thing I can think of, which I think is relevant, is, my only books I was consuming were personal development books, right? But inside that, there was one author, which was an incredible storyteller, and I got very good at storytelling. And his name was Og Mandino. He wrote the book called The Greatest Salesman in the World, and he had 11 books, and I read all of those. So, and also because a big chapter of my life was after I finished school, I went on down the path of being in the party scene and pubs in Australia and things like that. And I became a good storyteller in that environment as well. So that's again, there's nothing glamorous there, mate. It's just really being hungry and diving in, and also just in the trenches and being a good storyteller, and learning some principles when it comes to copywriting. So conversational copy is one big thing. Another one was storytelling, but brevity is key. Sometimes us storytellers, we can waffle on too much. So I learned that pretty quickly. A lot what I've seen, and I was guilty of this. A lot of people who start copywriting and they appreciate it, they fall in love with it. They can write to entertain themselves.
I'm guilty of that. Yeah, for sure.
So I got good at that because I used to have to write full page newspaper articles selling like a seminar or a product and things like that. And when they gave me a limit on how many words, that really hurt because I'm thinking, oh, don't cut out that. So that was one part of it. And
that's a big piece of traditional ecom copy too, right? Because we're not writing sales letters anymore. We're having to craft copy for a description field or short form copy that has to do everything that a sales letter does, but in this much space on average, right?
Yeah. So you're right.
That gives us a good transition into, so you've got put the time in, you got the hours, but so you really know the copy world, you're really good at it. But let's get specific. So what makes, I just touched on one point, but what makes e-commerce, copywriting for e-commerce different from traditional copywriting? What do we have to be aware of and what's different?
Well, I think that is a perfect setup. It was definitely brevity, have to be short, sharp, and punchy. So not only every sentence has to earn its place, but every word has to earn its place in the sentence. So I got, like, if you look at the chopping board that I have left over when I write copy, it's a mountain of words, phrases, paragraphs, and so that's and also the other thing that I've found in copywriting, and this was a real hard thing to bend my mind around, because we get brought up in the copywriting direct response marketing world, which is you find the problem, you aggravate the problem. But when you're selling a can opener, like, I mean, how many, you're not going to waste like 2 paragraphs talking about a problem, eh? Like, so there's a different level of discernment about the awareness of the audience and the customer. And also, most people don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder what I can read online today when I buy. They want to make a pretty quick decision. So I guess I write a lot less. I guess the short answer is brevity is key. Keep it short, sharp, and punchy. And this is the way the world is with 160 characters with tech, SMS, and all that, and Twitter posts, all that stuff. So it's been like a trend for a while. But you get very good at trimming down the fat and getting straight to the point. And the only caveat to that is brevity is don't dilute emotion. So that's the only time where I'd add words or phrases if there's an opportunity to have a spike of emotion. And I think that's one of the things that's lacking a lot of people in copy at the moment. They talk too much about features, and they don't
clinical.
Yeah. So I mean, all of these things deserve its own episode, as you know, mate.
Like, for sure. Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole on this kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, that would be the biggest shift in copy. I would agree. That's the biggest thing about ecom is you got to realize that what you're selling to, like in traditional direct response copywriting that most people like attribute to, you're selling a seminar, a book, a course, or something like that. And you're used to seeing those ridiculously long sales letters, which are really actually fun to create and tell the story and navigate. But that's not used selling the physical products. We just don't need it for the most part. Now, if you want to build out a pre-sale page and do something crazy like that, you can totally do it. But by and large, for the most stores out there, copy is 500 words or less, 300 words or less, 200 words or less. And trying to get the emotion across along with the information is the big thing. But within that creates room for a lot of mistakes. So Bret, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see, and not just necessarily newbies, but just e-commerce stores in general making when it comes to copy?
Well, the most obvious thing that came to mind was they don't appreciate they don't appreciate how valuable copy is. Copywriting is more of an afterthought. They say, "Oh, I'll get to that later," but we know that later equals never, right? So, and it's only because when at the start when I said you're one of a great copywriter as well, so the guys in your position who are bona fide good at marketing experts, most of them have got a very good core skill of copywriting. So I think so. Most people in the e-com world, they don't appreciate just how powerful, how big a needle mover it is. The other one is, even we talk about, it's short. A lot of people don't like those long form sales letters. So they say, oh no, I'm going to give people what they want. So I'll keep it short, but they try and make it too short and they miss out important things. So here's how I determine length, right? I make sure that every objection is missed, because one objection missed is a sale missed. Now that doesn't mean all the objections have to be under one tab in a product description. We've got the luxury of having different tabs like shipping and things so that people could quickly navigate there. But yeah, so I try and make sure that that legitimate objections are all hit, because if a little bit of doubt, they'll think, oh, I might think about it. And you know what happens, they never come back.
Yep.
And the other one is, I see a lot of mistake that I see e-com stores make is they've got some products which lend itself to really good emotional hot buttons, but they miss the mark. They don't try to inject emotion into in there. So those are the three biggest things I can say right now is
So to build on that, you just said emotion, and a lot of people that I see, and obviously you see it as well, and we see a ton of it actually, is that they're like, I'm selling a t-shirt, there's no emotion. Well, au contraire, right? Because the t-shirt you're selling, typically, you're in a niche, you're serving a passionate audience, you're selling a shirt that has a graphic or a slogan or a saying or something that is very specific to that market, and it speaks to them. Like I used to sell a ton of Second Amendment pro-gun shirts because that was my market. You can't tell me there's not an emotion when you're saying, you can have my gun when you take pride out of my cold dead fingers, or, American outlaw, things like that. There's an emotion there, much more than unisex sizing, ring spun cotton shirt, that, and which is what people try to do. They just think, oh, my product doesn't need copy. So what do you say to that?
Does it need emotion? You mean talking about
or copy? All I need to do is put I can copy the manufacturer specifications from AliExpress, and I got a product description.
Well, here's the thing, man. In some ways, they're right. There's some products don't have a lot of emotion to talk about, but they're not thinking deep enough, because here's the thing. There's a principle which I live by, which is the more they read, the more they buy. Now, the trick is to keep them reading, and that's another thing we can talk about, which is readability. But even if you're selling a shirt, I mean, there's 5 key emotions, right? There's love, fear, greed, guilt, and pride. So when I look at a product, I say, which one of those strings can I pull? And just with a shirt, I mean, pride is an easy one. They don't wear it. They wear it because they're wearing it to
represent.
Yeah, that's right. And but there's also other emotions you can inject, and this is a bit controversial to the copywriting principles, old school, because we get taught to don't try and be too creative, and I agree with that, because some people go a bit far with it, and don't risk with humor. But I've had phenomenal success with injecting a little bit of humor. So even if you've got a product, if you can inject personality into that, to your brand, so they actually have a smile, have a laugh, and they connect with your brand, and they'll actually want to buy from you. That's a kind of a secondary emotion you can inject around that. And also there's other emotion, which is urgency. It has to be believable. You can't, but urgency and scarcity, that's an emotion as well. So there's lots of different things you can pull that no matter what you're selling, to be honest with you.
Sure. So I want to touch on something else that we've kind of spoken copy as if copy is reduced to only the product page. but be a skill in copywriting. I mean, the lifetime value of a customer is what we really care about in e-commerce. Where does copy come into play for that, where it's critical to actually learn how to write decent copy?
Man, well, that's a perfect setup for emails, isn't it?
I was shoehorning you into that. I wanted you to say it, right?
Yeah.
It's huge, and you have more room, right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. I knew exactly where you're going. My email, oh man, and that's really what kind of put me on the map in the ecom world is and to be honest, it's one of the most neglected elements for ecom store owners. And I know that because we have an opportunity to work with 600 plus ecom store owners, and they're so focused on the front end because the front end is more of an adrenaline to get the sale. But man, if they only knew and appreciated, I know you just beat the drum of this so well, and that's why I love it. Is potentially you can have 45% of your revenue as a safety net income every single month, right? If you just continue the conversation and get them coming back, because the most expensive part is to acquire a client, and it's been said that once they buy from you at least once, it's sometimes 10 times easier for them to buy from you again.
Correct.
You
build that ongoing desire for repeat customer, because through copy, this is where you communicate your mission, your stance, what you believe are, who you are as a company. You can invoke your own personality, your own emotion, your brand presence, along with copy that evokes emotion, where you actually have more time and more length to sell or pitch a product. And you can do this ongoingly. And Bret just said it, 45% of your income as a safety net every month can come from automated and broadcast email flows. Every email is copy. And if you think just letting the automated emails go out or copying and pasting somebody from some internet guru's copy is effective for your brand, you're missing the point. Like, this is where developing the copy will have like Bret said at the beginning, this skill has made me more money over my career. And he was talking about his mentor basically, but still in an e-com store, copy will make you more money than anything else when applied to email, post-purchase follow-up, and even your sales copy on your ads. If your ad copy is better and you tell the story starting from the ad into the product page and then into the emails, you'll have this more congruent brand message, and you'll actually build a brand. Okay. Yeah. You'll earn, I shouldn't say build, because I don't believe in building brands. I believe that you will earn a brand through that development.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful, clean canvas to inject all those things in there. And a lot of people feel like they can't write, and I know exactly how they feel, because that's what I thought as well. But you can still do. I mean, even a bad email is better than no email for the most part. But you can really you don't have to have so much pressure. Like I said, it doesn't have to be such a big, overwhelming task. I like when brands kind of bring people into their world, and it's not just static sale. You just here's one thing I love telling people: don't try and be a good copywriter, be a good storyteller. Yeah, because people love stories, man. It just by default, people start a story and they want to know how it ends. Statements can be challenged, but stories are believed, and stories are remembered. So with emails are a great opportunity to do that, because you can turn your your customers into mini salespeople. Because if you try and get them to remember the particular features and benefits of your product, then it's a tough gig. But if you tell them a story, they remember stories and they tell stories. Yeah.
So I want to get some, very tangible stuff. Let's talk about some low-hanging fruit in a second. But I know we started talking email, and I know listeners and people watching this on YouTube or listening on iTunes or whatever, and they're in ecom, just because we know they hear email, they know it's important, but then they kind of gloss over, right? It seems to be what happens every single time. Yeah. Guys, to point out like how much and important this is. At 45% doesn't get you, like at Build, Grow, Scale, through our Ecom Insider program, working with our stores, every single month we are developing and from our trenches and what we're doing, we are producing copywriting training and turnkey email sequences that build on the the lifetime value of your customer for our members. Bret pulls all the data together, pulls all what's working, what we're doing, and he develops these different courses, things like win-back campaigns, cart abandonment campaigns, promotional campaigns, holidays, specific holiday, like at the time we're recording this, it is September. He's about to release a 50-part Black Friday, Cyber Monday, massive campaign that we've been building up on for the last couple of years. And like, we devote, heck, a huge chunk of Bret's month, every single month, is dedicated to new and improving email campaigns for our members to deliver every single month. It's a massive resource suck for all of us. The reason we do that is because it's that valuable, and it makes our members and makes our stores so much money that it's absolutely worth every penny and every bit of time that we commit to it. So if you're glossing over at email, just realize it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. You should give it the attention that it deserves. And also, if you really don't want to become the world's best copywriter for your niche, join Ecom Insider and let Bret spoon feed you all the copy and emails that you need. And then he'll even critique them for you within the membership. So anyway, not really a pitch on that, but just, it's that important. Email is that important. So back on track, Bret, what are some of the low hanging fruit, 80-20 areas on a store that can really be jazzed up and improved performance-wise by copy?
Well, I'll start with the store, but also, definitely email is one of missed opportunities, which we kind of hammered that home. But obviously the product page, I know even big stores, one of the stores that we worked with, I was able to write a brand new, fresh kind of product description, and it got something like a 24% increase to add to cart, which they were doing close to $1 million a month. So that's a significant increase. And the only thing we changed was the words in the product description, right? So, and I think another big mistake a lot of people make is, I see this all the time, that you can literally tell they've just copy and pasted product descriptions. And unfortunately, the people who did the copy pasting just choose static, boring ones like you alluded to, right? So I think, so that's the product description. Also, copywriting on your homepage for your value proposition. Man, that's a huge opportunity. And one element, I know I'm going a little bit off track here, but I think a lot of people lack proof, and I'd love to do a whole session just on adding proof, because even for people who've got a new store, but then you can back this up, Tanner, but people who go to your homepage, they want to have a level of trust and belief that it's safe to buy from you. So that is a massive opportunity to put not only like your biggest benefit, but also give them trust and belief that they're not the only one, and it's safe to kind of buy from you.
Yeah, it's part of their due diligence process. People always say like, "Oh, I don't need to worry about my homepage." We hear it all the time, right? I don't need my homepage. I send traffic to my product page. I don't need an about us page. I don't need a this page. It's like, hang on. Do you watch your Google stats at all, or your Google Analytics and your tag manager? If you did, you would notice that a disproportionate percentage of your audience, it's different for every store, will land on a product page, but before they buy, will circle back to the home page or the about us page or different things as part of their vetting process. If they like the product, they still need to make sure they trust you. So those pages and the copy on those pages is critically important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes to another part of the due diligence is the About Us page. That's something that doesn't have to be just plain vanilla boring. That's an opportunity. If they've landed there, that's such an opportunity to create that rapport and connection, trust and believability, and even a little bit of entertainment. When I say entertainment or infotainment, just to try and spike an emotion and likability.
Make it fun and put some personality into it. That's one of the biggest things that's lacking, is people try to emulate these massive brands. Like, well, there's no personality in Apple. You go to Walmart, there's no About Us page. You go to, the REI or whatever. REI has a lot of personality. People say they don't, but they totally do. It's very much, and I'm an REI fan, but like, they're very tree hugger in the most general sense of the world. So there's some personality there, but you don't want a corporate-y feel to your store. It's actually counterproductive to the sales process. And it goes back to what Bret's talking about of stories. Okay. We've all heard it, facts tell and stories sell. Well, Bret's talking a lot about that. But the other thing, that little catchism or, little phrase that we say that people kind of gloss over, is that people buy from people, right? They don't want to buy from a big conglomerate faceless entity. They want to buy from Sally's Beauty Supply. Sally, I want to buy from Sally, right? I want to buy from, the person who created the product, or the person who stands behind it. We have a Ecom Insider member that you just did a really in-depth interview with, because he went from like 0 to multiple hundreds of thousands since joining in a matter of weeks. But anyway, he's a UK military vet, right? And his customers are UK military vets, and they love his brand because he is one of them. They support him. They like his story. They like what he's doing, what he stands for. He injected personality, right? And that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And also, don't be afraid to be self-deprecating. I mean, you think within the first 2 minutes of me opening my mouth on this podcast, I started telling how I hadn't read a book and I hated English, failed. That kind of resonates with people. And so don't try and think you have to try and put on this polished kind of persona with this brand. Like, people love reading kind of horror stories in a way, but if you've had a struggle with the journey, that just humanizes you, and that's really what a good copywriter should do, is to humanize you. So they're not buying from a brand, it's real people, there's likability, and
And actually, Bret, that brings up a really good point from the product side. People work so hard to make the product look perfect, and if there is anything that's not perfect about it, they really try to hide it. And that comes to the world of what we call a damaging omission, right? And how powerful it is to use a damaging omission, because everybody knows the product's not perfect. So they're looking for what that is. So what you can do is you can, in a very crafty and copy specific way, create what is called a damaging omission, where you actually on your own point out a flaw or a deficiency or something in the product that it's not a deal breaker, but the fact that you're pointing it out, it builds Bret, I can't think of the terminology right now, but it builds trust. But what does it build?
Trust, rapport, likability, but also humanizes them, humanizes you, and I think that it doesn't put you on a pedestal. They can relate to you, and it just goes back to the principles you were just saying. Like, people like buying off people like them, just like that military person. So it is that is a big missed opportunity is to.
And it doesn't have to be anything like it shouldn't be anything that actually is a deal breaker. Like, for example, this podcast, right? We talk a lot about the podcast and how great the content is, but there'll be a lot, like, this isn't a professional studio. Bret's not in a professional studio. Our audio isn't always we try to make it as good as we can, but it's not. Our damaging omission is, hey guys, we're not professional podcasters. We don't have we're working on little by little making everything better, but I promise you that the information that you get is the absolute best you can get. Our damaging omission is, hey, we're not professional podcasters. Our video quality might not be the highest. Our audio quality may not be as perfect as a professional studio, but I promise that the product will deliver, which is the content, right? So if you hear that, you're like, cool, I'm fine with that. Like, yeah, you're not perfect at this. You're not a professional podcaster. So what? So now, by making that damaging omission, you guys are just much more in tune with what we're delivering, and you're willing to set aside anything else that you have, because it's like, yeah, they were honest about it. Yeah, their content is great. And yeah, Tanner's audio does sound a little echoey, and Bret's accent is just weird. But hey, what it comes out of his mouth, aside from the accent, is amazing. So damaging omissions can be very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, Bret, we've covered a lot. Let's get into some specifics. What have been some of your big wins in copy that people would like to know about?
Yeah, look, the one that I just kind of touched on before was the product description for a POD store, which was just a very plain vanilla, cut and paste that everyone else did. And I looked at it, I said, are you kidding me? Your particular market, you had an opportunity to speak in their language and inject some kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. So I got an opportunity just to whip up a product description, and you might remember this, Tanner. I thought it was 24% increase from add to car, like overnight.
For the hat, right?
For a hat, and they were doing close to $1 million a month.
On hats, guy. Like, how unemotional would you think a hat is, and how there's no personality and fun? Bret completely rewrote it from a snarky humor perspective, which fit the niche. And I remember it was like a 24.7 or some ridiculous increase overnight.
Yeah. So that was, and look, that's not just a one-off case. I mean, I love that. I have a privilege of being able to critique Ecom store members' product descriptions and emails and homepage copy every other week on our coaching calls. So there's a lot of wins that I see from members who keep on coming back, and it's the best thing for a copywriter is to see that working. But there's another store that I got to work on, and I looked at it and I'm thinking, okay, that's not bad. They were in the fashion, but it wasn't print on demand, and it was just lacking. There was nothing there. They were stunning, but I just started asking more questions, and that's another lesson that good copywriters do, is just survey and ask questions. It turns out that she had worked for she was a seamstress for one of the royals, and had also worked with a lot of celebrities, but there was nowhere to see on the site. Actually there was like a link that you had to kind of get through to hide. And so I encourage her to use those proof elements up front and center in the homepage and the product description. And I didn't even mention the traffic. She used those principles in the front end traffic as well. So with the traffic to the consistent message to the product page and homepage, that was another example of good to great. And that seems to be one of that principle is adding proof, injecting proof, is something that is largely lacked in a lot of e-com store owners as well. And so I really get a lot of success with my clients and our members with injecting proof. The other part is email success. I've been able to help people go from a dismal 8% revenue up to 30, 35, 40, 45% just by putting in some good flows and campaigns. And I've got countless stories of that. That's probably one of the most consistent winners is injecting good copy into the back end emails. And it's time and time again. Most people they might have the basic flows, but they miss opportunities for campaigns. In BGS, we make sure that no one misses an opportunity to do a campaign. Right, and that doesn't have to be a sales campaign. We can talk about like daily emails as well, but it's not too uncommon for people can sometimes get 50, 60% of their revenue from a good written email campaign for that month. Just countless stories of those.
When you started really doing out the GSDs, which we call Get Shit Done reports, which have the turnkey campaigns in it. David and Archer, two of our members who were going to actually have guests on the show, they built a company that went 0 to 10 million in less than a year. But they were doing no email when they were first getting going, and they implemented what Bret taught. And I think they only put like 4 or 5 of the original campaigns in, and these were early versions. They've been much more optimized since then, but they saw an immediate increase up to where they were getting 20% of their daily revenue from those 4 or 5 flows that they had, and immediately became believers. And then they're like, okay, Bret, what else do you got? Like, let's put in more email flows. But with 4 purpose-built email flows that do a specific thing written a specific way, they were able to get 20% plus right off the bat of their daily revenue. And they were at that point doing about $1.5 million a month when that was happening. And then they went obviously much, much higher than that.
Yeah. And as you know, we could spend an hour just doing screenshots after screenshots of all the members who have implemented copy in with those GSD reports, who have self-admitted. They said for 3-4 years I never got around to do it, but now we put those email GSDs in place, and some of them again like 50% monthly revenue because they're doing it so consistently. So it's great. I mean, again, we've got in our Slack channel, we've got a particular channel there which is just on testimonials, and if we can do, we just catch screenshots of so many people who go, wow, you know, this is what's happened when we implemented all these.
And it all stems from copy, right?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. And yeah.
So a big thing about copy, Bret, and this is like, I've struggled with it. I even talked about it at the very beginning, that it takes me forever to write effective copy. And you've helped me a lot speed up the process. And I've learned a lot from you doing that. But what are some tips for helping someone write good enough copy quick? Because that's a fear a lot of people have. It's like, man, I don't have the time to sit down and write because I'm slow. It takes me a long time or whatever. So what are some tips for that?
Yeah, good question. So I learned this the hard way. When I was working with Mal, the millionaire maker in Australia, he had an idea. He said, Bret, I want to do a tour around Australia. What I want to do is pull someone from the audience, you and I interview them on stage, and then you go and write 12 months copy worth overnight and present it to them the next day. Right? And I thought, I had this philosophy, say yes and clean up the mess later. So I did it. We interviewed them, and I wrote a long form sales letter, 10 emails, video script, a full page newspaper ad, an editorial. I didn't sleep and came back and presented it on stage the next day. We did that in 6 different states around Australia. So I'm not going to say I'm superhuman to do that. I did that for fear of public humiliation. Yeah. Right. And I learned that with the right pressure, we have the ability to do that, to write fast and maintain good quality. So that leads me to number one. It's a mindset thing. So I make sure I put myself into a bit of a healthy pressure that I can write fast and quality. So I always write in lockdowns. So I have a timer. And this a lot of copywriters do the same thing, but I won't go into the origin story, but it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. I generally like working in 30-minute sprints, and I have certain rules. If I can write with no internet, that'll be great, right? Because I'll turn the phone. There'll be no checking the phone. I'll text everyone in the house and say, I'm in lockdown. Everyone knows what that means. I won't have anything to eat. The only thing I have maybe have a little bit of water, but that's it. And I just have to be completely zeroed in and focused in that time, and write as fast as I can. And sometimes with that time becomes thinking as well, but I'll make sure I don't wander off and start thinking about other things. I just stay in that like lockdown period. Now I've put that to practice and put it in seminars and taken 100 people in a seminar, and they've been able to write long form sales pages in like about 7 hours in that same environment. So it's not just something that I can do, anyone can do it. But with that has to come a level of mindset where you've got to pump yourself up. So sometimes you have to put some rocky music on or whatever to get yourself in the mode, because self-doubt and that little that voice that tells you that you're not good enough or you can't do it, it's too hard, that's going to creep in. So I literally have to trick myself to do it all the time. And the embarrassing part is how many times I have to to remind myself that I have to do this. Even though I teach it, and there's a lot more to that. This again is one topic I can go a lot deeper on. But yeah, to get speed, I put myself in lockdown. I give myself a bit of I isolate myself from any distractions at all, very strict, and give myself a bit of a positive kind of pep talk to go for it. And I just try and work in those kind of sprints. And if you can do even 6 of those sprints, you'd be amazed at how much work you get done. Because without that, it's incredible how quickly we get distracted. And it's just something that's like 5 seconds distraction is not really 5 seconds, because you have to create another momentum to start again. And it's very, and there's a lot of science documented how how much a small little distraction can actually just prolong your day, and then you can finish the end of the day and you feel like you've been working, you've been busy, you've been staring at the computer, but you don't feel like you've done as much as you could. And it's a sucky way to end the day.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah, no, and it works. It's a simple thing. You can, you set yourself a sprint or a lockdown period, and it doesn't have to be an hour long. Start small. Say, I'm just going to write for 15 minutes, and I'm going to, Bret's actually done challenges in our group, in Ecom Insider, where it's like how to write you have to write an email in 5 minutes. You can't spend more than 5 minutes on it. And I remember back from the info marketing days when I was learning copy and how to do product launches and all this stuff, there was a whole school of thought of like, man, when you're doing a product launch, you got a zillion different emails, like sometimes 100 emails that have to be written, a lot of them in advance and all this stuff. And you would basically have a 2-minute or 5-minute timer, depending on the email, of how long you were allowed to spend on it. And if that's all you got done, like you had to finish it, but it may not be great, but at least it was done. And then once everything was done and you put them into play, then you could go back and use data to kind of help you dial them in. And it was a variation on what Bret's talking about here, but it does work. And it's amazing when you really only have 5 minutes and you stick yourself to it, how much you can actually get done in that period. And you can write an entire email, including the thought process behind it. So, it definitely can be done.
And one thing that I want to add into is, just because you're in lockdown doesn't mean that your chattery little mind is going to stop. I wish that was the case. But what as soon as I sit down and I'm about to write, my brain will go, I wonder what's in the fridge. I wonder if the contents in the fridge has changed in the last 20 minutes. So I better go check, and there's this crazy distraction. So I have a bit of paper next to me, and I have the word catch on it. And I catch those thoughts and I write them down in the middle of my lockdown, just so that feels like I've validated that they're there, but I'll get to them later. But if I let that circulate, it's hard. So I'll just, and here's the thing, as soon as I sit down to write, for someone who hasn't got the best memory, all of a sudden I have got an amazing memory of all the people I've forgotten to email. And I get reminded of all these other things that I should be doing. I didn't do that. And I just write them on my catch list. And I just keep going. And then at the end of my thing, then I can go and work through that catch list or give myself a bit of a reward.
Totally. Yeah. So this is gold, bro. This is all good stuff. So, hey, we've gone a lot longer than we had originally anticipated, but it's all good stuff. So what do you think about, because obviously we got a lot of points we could touch on. What if we do a mini series through the podcast, and every month or whatever, we drop another episode, but we kind of deep dive into each one of these topics? You up for that?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. A lot of these deserve to go deeper with more specifics and some and some hints and tips on how to write with good quality and the thinking and the research phase, because we didn't even touch on that. A good copywriter would spend 70% of the time researching before they write, because and that stops blank screen syndrome, is if you've got enough data. So I'd love to go deep on these topics, mate. I think it'll be very helpful for everyone.
Let's plan that. So guys, thank you very much for listening. Now, the fact that you enjoyed this episode, you listened to the whole thing, you liked it, you like what Bret's saying. We've just agreed to go deep dive into specific copywriting subsets of the main topic, and drill down deep into very actionable strategies and specific things from all different copy perspectives. That's going to be a multi-part series that we're going to have to do. So very important that you guys are subscribed, wherever you listen to your podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, you're subscribed to that. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel, because this is also a video podcast and we share a lot of things on the screen at times. So you're going to want to be subscribed to both. You don't want to miss that. Otherwise, you won't get notified whenever Bret and I release a new episode for this series and all the other good stuff we're sharing. So to do that, if you're on iTunes, click subscribe, leave us a review. We love the reviews. It kind of fuels our fire to keep doing more of these, but also make sure you head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe there. If you need links, the easiest place to go to get all the links you need in the show notes and all that good stuff is buildgrowscale.com/podcast. buildgrowscale.com/podcast. You can get links to all the different platforms. You can get the show notes, individual episode lists, and see everything you need right there in one place. And again, we've talked about Ecom Insider a lot. It was not meant to be a pitch, but if you are interested and you want to learn more about Ecom Insider, just go to ecominsider.com and you can get all the details there. And if you're interested and you want to learn more, you can actually talk to Bret and he can fill you in on everything. There's a way to book a call with Bret right there on the page and you can get all the details. All right. So with that, guys, loved having you here. Thank you very much for listening. Please share this episode, leave a review and a comment below of what you thought, and we'll see you on the next episode. See ya.